A lonely man was walking home from his job that he didn't really like when he came across a dog that was mangy, dirty, and was growling at him. His first thought was to leave the dog in peace. Clearly, the dog did not want the man there. However, when he saw the dog was limping, he knew he had to do something to help. Especially since this dog looked like the dog he had growing up. He loved that dog so much, and he had amazing memories with him, like playing fetch the entire afternoon until the man's mother called him in for dinner, or the time when the boy and the dog laid out together on a picnic blanket, watching the stars at night until they fell asleep, only to wake up to the sound of a morning rooster. The man loved that dog, and memories of the times he had almost brought him to tears because he missed his childhood dog so much. That gave him an excellent idea, though. Bring this dog into his home, and maybe the man could recreate the memories from his childhood, and he wouldn't be so lonely anymore. So, while the dog was growling at him, and with the risk of getting bit and possibly having rabies, the caring man picked up the dog gently. It seemed, though, the dog's bark was much worse than his bite, because as the man carried the dog home, he never once bit, but instead seemed to snuggle into the man for comfort. It seemed the dog needed comfort as much as the man did. As the man entered his house and set the dog on the floor, the dog seemed curious, like he had been in a house similar to this before. Maybe he had run away from home, the man thought. He would worry about that later. His first thought was to get the dog fed, a bowl of water, and cleaned up. Since he didn't have the food yet, he figured he would work on the bowl of water first, cleaning the dog up second, going to get the dog food third, and fourth, taking the dog to the vet tomorrow. So, he gave the dog a water dish, which the dog lapped up like he was dying of thirst, and then went about trying to clean the dog. The man brought the dog to the tub and turned on the water. The dog just sat there, shaking, but never trying to escape the bathtub. So the man washed him and took off multiple layers of grime and dirt until the dog's coat was shiny and looking clean and fresh. When the man was done and had turned off the water, the dog jumped out of the tub and started to shake. The man got all wet. He had forgotten from childhood that dogs like to shake after a bath, and to have the towel ready to at least dry the dog off a little bit. Oh well, he thought. At least he had changed out of his work clothes before getting the dog in the bath. After the man changed again and the dog was dry, the man put on his coat and was planning to go to the pet food store without the dog. The dog had different plans, though. He ran to the truck and sat right by the door to get in. The man laughed for the first time in weeks and said, "Okay, pup, you can come with, but you have to stay in the car since I don't have a leash." So they drove to the store. The man got what he needed for his new dog, and they went home, where the next day he took him to the vet. The dog was perfectly fine. It was probably just the weeks and months of being in an alleyway that caused him to limp. After that, though, for a few short weeks, The man and dog settled into a routine. While the man was at work, the dog would nap in his favorite spot on the couch. When the man got home from work, the dog would happily greet the man, and they would have dinner. The man, human food, and the dog, dog food. And then they would play fetch afterward. When it became dark, the two would go inside and cuddle on the couch. It was the most love the man had felt in years. One weekend, a few weeks after the man had found the dog, the man took the dog to a park, thinking it would be good for the dog to get out and run since the man had been busy with work that week. When the man and dog got there, all seemed to be going well. They were playing fetch with a stick and living their best life. That is, until the dog didn't go after the stick and instead went after a little girl. The man had never been more afraid for someone else in his life. He called and whistled for the dog multiple times, but the dog wouldn't stop running until he reached the little girl, who looked to be 5, and then he sat right in front of her like she was his owner. The man thought, "That is odd." Once the man caught up to the dog, and the little girl's mother had gotten there too. He was too worried about the dog to even notice her, though. He started admonishing the dog, saying things like, "Bad dog, and it's not good to run off like that." That is, until he saw a hand that was bigger than a 5-year-old girl's reach out and pet the dog and say, "Hello, Roscoe." He finally looked up and he saw the most beautiful woman he had ever seen in his life. He was stunned, both because it appeared the dog was another person's dog too, and by the woman standing in front of him. The man fumbled out, "Is this your dog? I thought he was mine as I found him in an alleyway all dirty and with a limp." The woman replied, "Yes, my husband, who is now deceased, and I had gotten him for our daughter's first birthday. He has been such a good dog since, and we were devastated when he got out of the fence and ran away. I really think Roscoe was feeling the grief of the house and couldn't handle it anymore, so he ran away. Thank you for taking care of him. Would you like to come to our house for a treat and tea as my way to say thank you?" The man was stunned, as he wasn't sure what to say, so he just blabbed out, "Yes," because he doesn't want to be rude, and hello, this gorgeous woman was asking him back to her house. Of course he should go. The visit to the woman's house was just the start of a lonely man turning into a loved man. He fell in love with the woman and the child, and they fell in love with him. A year later, the man and the woman were married. As for their love story, that's a story for another day. The man, the woman, child, and dog lived happily ever after. Who knew a lonely dog and a lonely man could lead to a happy ending after all?